Welcome again to Joe Stunner Boxing. This coming Saturday, 24th of May, 2025, is a very interesting fight, I think. Could be a lot more interesting than people are perhaps expecting. It's between Josh Taylor, the former undisputed 140-pound champ, who is making his welterweight debut against Ekow Essuman. And we'll come to Taylor in a minute. I'm sure you know a lot about him. But Esman, 36 years of age, nicknamed the Engine, long-term welterweight, 21 wins with 8 KOs, 1 defeat. Defeat was a unanimous decision to Harry Scarf back in 2023, back into 2023. But he does hold some very, very good domestic wins over, good quality British welterweights. The last one was against Ben Vaughan, who was undefeated in 10. He won a majority 10-round decision. That was for the WBO European thing, which I don't even count. I think the EBU title is the only European one that matters. Prior to that, he had an absolute tear-up with Owen Cooper. Stopped him in 10 rounds. That was the final round. That was a 10-rounder as well. He was on the floor in the 9th. And I think he had Cooper down twice, final round, and maybe the 6th round, I think it was. But it was an up and down, a terrific fight. I mean, great fight. And Cooper's come back well since that defeat, But the Engine ground him down. He's also got a win over Chris Congo. That's a good win. Chris at the time was a 14-1 fighter. That was for the British and Commonwealth titles, which... Ekow won that. Prior to that, Samuel Antwi was 14-1. He beat him over 12. That was for the British and Commonwealth titles as well. Darren Tetley, another good British fighter. All of these were for the British and Commonwealth titles. Chris Jenkins, Danny Ball was another one. Danny was undefeated. Jenkins had something left at the time, and he stopped him in 8. He's won a Lonsdale belt and then some. He's been making British. He must have had about 5 defences of the British title and the Commonwealth title as well. Ekow Essuman. So at that level, at that sort of British, maybe European level, he is a real threat. And he's called the Engine, and he has a tremendous gas tank. Good chin. Was on the floor against Owen Cooper, but. And it was a heavy knockdown, but he got up, straight away. He thought he'd been knocked clean out. He got up and then stopped Owen Cooper in the next round. So that's Ekow Essuman, a threat. 36 years old, but doesn't look like he's ever been better, to be honest with you. And he's got that knack of sort of grinding out the difficult fights. Do you know what I mean? Like when it looks like it's slipping away from him. He's got split decision, majority decisions on his record. I don't know about split decisions, but certainly majority decisions. And he stopped some good men as well. But against Josh Taylor, of course, he is facing, as you know, a former undisputed champion. But Josh, even though he's currently 19-2, the 2 defeats were to Jack Catterall in the rematch and to Teofimo Lopez. He's got 19 wins with 13 KOs. He's 34, so he's only 2 years younger than Esman. And of course, he's been to the top. He became undisputed champ against Jose Carlos Ramirez, who was undefeated at the time. He beat Regis Prograis when Prograis was undefeated in 24. Ivan Baranchek when he was undefeated in 19. Who was it? Ryan Martin, wasn't it? He was undefeated at the time as well. He beat Victor Postel when Postel only had 1 defeat on his record. If you go way back to when he won the Commonwealth 140-pound title against Dave Ryan, Ryan was a tough sod and we'd never been stopped before. But I think it was an injury, actually injured his back. But Josh stopped him in 5. That was a real statement. And then when he beat the undefeated O'Hara Davies in 2017, that was a really good win. He stopped Miguel Vasquez when Vasquez still had something about him. That was a good win because very few people stopped Vasquez, and certainly at that particular point of his career. Former IBF lightweight champ, of course. So all of that that is a resume and a half. But we have to say that if you consider the first Jack Catterall fight to be a defeat, which I most certainly do, that is one of the worst decisions I've ever seen. And then you've got the Teofimo Lopez defeat over 12. That was a unanimous decision. And then Jack won the rematch on a unanimous decision, having lost the first one on a split. If you consider those to be three performances which are essentially defeats, I mean, two of them officially and one of them unofficially, Josh has really got it all to prove. Because if you go back to the fight before the Catterall fight, which was against Jose Ramirez, that was in 2021, May 2021. So that was 4 years ago. So you could make an argument that Josh hasn't won a fight in 4 years. And I would make that argument, actually. Now, this is also his first fight at 147, and a lot of people will say, look, he should have moved up to welterweight years ago. And I think that is an argument that can be made. I know that when you got all the belts, you don't want to give them up. But he's been tight at the weight, hasn't he? And there are, rumours or stories or whatever you want to call them about the fact that he doesn't always live the right life outside of the ring. He had some personal issues, family issues, I think. I won't go into that because that's his own business. But, you do think, has this guy got enough left? Even for someone like Esman, because this is Esman's world title fight. Esman's going to come in looking to upset the apple cart, and I give him a very realistic chance of doing this. Now, the thing that goes against Esman for me is that this is over 10 rounds, not 12. And those 2 rounds for someone with Esman's style can make all the difference, because I think Taylor will start quick. I think he'll be boxing, aggressive back foot boxing, letting Esman come to him, and he won't have to look very far because Esman's going to come in strong. Esman's probably going to have high guard, but he's going to be letting his hands go quite early on. He must realise that he's got to start quick. He doesn't always start quick, but he's got to know that this is a 10, not a 12 rounder. That extra 6 minutes of fighting can make all the difference. If you're behind on points after 5 or 6, then it's an uphill struggle. And I can see the early rounds going to Taylor. Taylor will be, like I say, he'll be letting his hands go. He's probably more naturally talented, but he is more naturally talented than Esman, technically better. It's a question of whether Esman can start to have an effect soon enough, sooner rather than later. Will he be able to put the pressure on Josh and make him fight at a pace he doesn't like? Esman, Esman is a orthodox fighter, whereas Josh is a southpaw. I'm trying to think of which southpaws Esman's faced in the past. No, I'd have to have a think about that one, but that might give him trouble early on. He might have to adapt. Ben Vaughan, I think, was his last fight, wasn't it? So Ben Vaughan was a southpaw, if I'm mistaken. Am I remembering this right? I think he's a southpaw. So maybe that was a good little 10-rounder as a precursor to the Taylor fight. But having said that, of course, Ben Vaughan's not Josh Taylor, and Esman did only win a majority decision over Vaughan. I thought he won the fight, but it was close, So I don't know. If this was over 12 rounds, I'd probably be picking an Esman upset. I probably would. I wouldn't be confident of it, but I'd think, I'll have a cheeky fire on that one. Yeah, why not? But over 10, I wonder if that's enough time to get his work done. Esman, I can see Josh winning most of the first 5 rounds, and then probably Esman in the middle rounds getting closer. But then it's a question of, the middle rounds in a 10-rounder are what? 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 5, 6, 7, maybe that's sort of. He's going to have to stamp his authority and take something out of Josh. And Josh at the new weight, probably his gas tank will be a lot better than it was, say, against Teofimo Lopez, when after 5 rounds, he looked shagged. He just wasn't at the races in the first Catterall fight. And he probably underrated Catterall a lot. And in the rematch, it was closer in the rematch than the first fight, but Catterall picked up the win. Yeah, I think the southpaw stance will give Esman a few problems early on. I see Josh, after 5 rounds, which is half the fight, I see Josh winning maybe 4 of those rounds. In the second half of the fight, I see Esman having more success, but I think Josh will probably hang on to win on points. And it might be a 96-94, 97-93, that sort of thing. And I think it might be controversial. I don't know. But I definitely think that if Josh is up for this, and I think he is, and he hasn't taken Esman lightly, and he has the right tactics to box on the back foot aggressively, let his hands go, be punch first and punch last, use his feet sensibly, do those things that we saw him do so well as a 140 pounder. If he can resurrect 75-80% of that, I think he'll have way too much for Esman. But I don't see him stopping Esman. I'm going to go for a Josh Taylor points win over Ekow Essuman, 96-94, 97-93, that sort of thing. So what do you think? What's your opinion? And tell me why you hold whatever opinion you hold. Let me know what you think. Comments below. Thanks for watching the video. If you like the video and you could hit the like button, I'd appreciate that, because they count them, and spread the word about Joe Stunner Boxing. And if you're new, hit the subscribe button. Takes you a second, cost you nothing. Much appreciated. Always appreciated. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thanks very much. Should be a good one. I'll catch you later. Bye for now.